Texas Parks and Wildlife and National Park Service logos appear and disappear. Orientation to Lyndon B. Johnson National and State Parks. Shots fade into Texas hill country scenery.
Nestled among tree-enveloped hills and crossed by shallow running creeks, sits a rugged land rich with history and culture in the heart of Central Texas.
Water running over rocks and colorful leaves.
Known as the Hill Country, this area has been home to many peoples, from the Tonkawa and Comanche to Hispanic and German settlers to American legends themselves.
Old rusty wagons sit in a grassy field.
One such man, born in and dearly devoted to this area, became one of the most influential American presidents in our nation's history, and it is for him that Lyndon B. Johnson State and National Historical Parks are named.
Photo of Lyndon B. Johnson crouching by river and holding blades of grass. Sign reads, Johnson City, hometown of Lyndon Johnson.
In the heart of the Hill Country is a small town bearing President Johnson's family name.
Cars drive past and people walk through town. Large square building sits in center of town.
Founded by his cousin James Polk Johnson, this small yet bustling town is today the seat of Blanco County and is home to many important landmarks related to the Johnson family. To find out more, head to the National Park headquarters.
Sign reads, Lyndon B. Johnson, National Historical Park Visitor Center and Park Headquarters. Person in uniform talks to people at counter.
At the Visitor Center, park rangers can help you begin your tour of the park.
People walk around exhibits showcasing a suit, multiple videos, and an antique car.
Here, you can delve into detailed exhibits on President Johnson's legislative legacy, watch informative films, and become familiar with both President Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson's careers and accomplishments. Nearby are two sites integral to the Johnson legacy. Just across the street at the Boyhood Home,
Early 20th century one-story white house seen from the outside.
get a feel for what life was like in 1920s rural Texas and imagine how it would have been for a young Lyndon growing up here without electricity or indoor plumbing.
Interior shots of antique furnishings, fine china, and personal effects. Photo of young Lyndon B. Johnson and siblings.
As the eldest of 5 children, born to a Texas state representative and a college-educated mother, Lyndon Johnson developed a lasting impression here that went on to shape his character forever. Just down the street from the Visitor Center is the Johnson Settlement.
Path cuts through green grass and trees, fence seen below large hill and tree.
A half-mile gravel loop provides a glimpse into 1860s Texas and is an excellent way to enjoy Texas hill country landscape.
Longhorn eat grass in fields surrounded by fences.
Lyndon B. Johnson National Historical Park is proud to keep longhorns here, as they are important to the economic and cultural history of the hill country. At the Settlement Exhibit Center,
Modern stone building with large windows.
read about longhorns and their relationship to the land and the people of the hill country.
Large open space with exhibit and images on walls.
Fascinating photographs, tools, and displays reveal the realities behind cattle driving and frontier life.
Antique 19th century cabin seen from outside.
Further down the path, take a break on the shaded porch of the original Johnson Dog Trot Cabin, home of Sam Ely Johnson Sr. and his wife Eliza.
Portraits of 19th century couple.
The grandparents of Lyndon Johnson, this couple lived a true frontier life, bound to the land that surrounded them.
Cabin interior reveals wooden walls, fireplace, dishware, loom, and aged boots.
Their frontier experience was passed down through stories to a young and curious grandson. Partly for this reason, Johnson is still known today as the last frontier president.
Large stone buildings.
Before leaving the settlement area, be sure to check out the other sites, such as the Bruckner Barn,
Horse in field.
horse pasture, and plant life that brims with an energy all of its own.
Close-up shots of insects crawling on plants. A red northern cardinal hops off a bench.
While the president's early life and roots can be viewed in Johnson City, it is on the LBJ Ranch in Stonewall, Texas that his sense of place was defined. Begin your LBJ Ranch visit at Lyndon B. State Park and Historic Site near Stonewall.
LBJ State Park and Historic Site sign welcomes visitors. State Park staff interact with visitors.
Start at the Visitor Center to check in and pick up your free permit for the self-guided driving tour around the LBJ Ranch district. Afterwards, explore exhibits that describe the human history of this area.
Exhibit interiors containing flags, signage, portraits, and rustic furnishings.
Lyndon B. State Park and Historic Site features the cultural and natural history of the Texas Hill Country, the land of President Johnson's birth. Scenic landscapes, historic structures, and exhibits tell the story of the inhabitants of the region from the earliest to the more recent.
Silhouette of man walking away into sunrise. 19th century portraits of children and older couple.
Those who came here to work the land included an influx of German settlers whose influence can still be felt strongly today.
Historic cabin interior containing decorative dining ware, food, and personal effects.
Peer inside the Baron's cabin to see how German settlers would have furnished their homes and get an idea about how they spent both their work and leisure time.
Dense trees covering a bridge, a wary deer, a toad, and a sign reading Hackberry Celtis SPP.
From the Visitor Center, a trail system provides a peaceful walk through the woods and open prairie where you can glimpse local wildlife and learn about the natural surroundings. These trails will guide you toward a great jewel of the state park, the Sauer Beckman Living History Farm.
Sign above gate reads Sauer Beckman Living History Farm. People walk by large wooden barn.
This picturesque farm is continuously worked by volunteers who ensure that the entire site is kept as it would have appeared in the early 1900s.
Barn interior contains room full of horse saddles and bridles. Seated person milks cow using metal bucket.
Duties include tending to the livestock, big and small.
Person pours grain into trough surrounded by sheep. Pig and piglet eat slop from a trough. Person uses scythe to cut long grass.
Maintaining and harvesting the garden.
Person hammers fence post with pair of pliers.
Mending clothes.
Person feeds white fabric through period sewing machine.
And preparing noontime dinners.
Person feeds wood into stove, kneads dough, and drizzles jelly from bowl.
Inside the Beckman farmhouse, furniture, artifacts, and living spaces portray life of the time period.
Historic 20th century house interiors containing furniture and decorations.
If you have any questions, feel free to ask the staff.
Person in historic clothing talks to visitors. American bison roam and eat in a large grassy field, watched by a family with children.
Farther into the park, see firsthand the bison herd. These icons of the American West once freely roamed Central Texas, providing for Native Americans to sustain their communities. Today, these giants enjoy a comfortable life as a valued and protected cultural icon.
Traditional dog trot cabins frame one another and the immediate environment.
As you prepare to leave the state park, be sure to visit other great sites like the original Dan's cabins. When heading to the LBJ Ranch, admire the Pedernales River as you cross from bank to bank.
Cars drive past dense trees in a shallow river winding out of sight.
Over 100 miles long, this important river has sustained the hill country for thousands of years and holds a significant place in Lyndon Johnson's earliest memories. At the entrance of the ranch,
Car drives past large sign reading "All the world is welcome here, Lyndon B. Johnson National Historical Park, LBJ Ranch."
you'll come to a series of buildings vital to President Johnson's life and upbringing.
Sign by A-Frey Building on Hill reads "Junction School, Lyndon B. Johnson National Historical Park."
These include the one-room Junction School, where the future president began his first formal education at the early age of 4.
20th century schoolhouse containing desks, dolls, and a stove fades into exterior shot of building at onset of night.
Inside, experience what the learning environment was like in the early 20th century for school children of the greatest generation. If you're a fan of night sky viewing, come back after dark for stargazing.
Stars light up night sky.
The Ranch District serves as an official international dark sky site, and the Junction School provides an excellent spot for the public to look at stars outside of park hours. Continue down the winding tree-lined road to find yourself at President Johnson's reconstructed birthplace home.
One-story White House with large porch.
It was here that the future president was born in 1908.
Portrait of Lyndon B. Johnson as a baby sitting down looking at camera.
The reconstructed birthplace is a close representation of the original structure, and it was President Johnson himself who had it rebuilt in 1964.
Period house containing antique furniture.
The home is furnished with sentimental period pieces from the Johnson family.
Numerous headstones framed by trees sit in cemetery watched by people standing behind a low wall.
Just a few hundred yards from where President Johnson was born is the Johnson Family Cemetery. Here, many members of the Johnson family were laid to rest, including Lyndon Johnson, after his death in 1973. Here, his life came full circle as he returned to the land that had meant so much to him. When Lady Bird Johnson passed in 2007, she was buried next to her husband.
Sign reads "Sam E. Johnson Sr. Farmhouse, Lyndon B. Johnson National Historical Park."
Continuing through the ranch, drive past the final home of Sam and Eliza Johnson, President Johnson's grandparents.
Red painted building and stables.
Wind your way through open fields as you make your way to the highest point of the property.
Cars and tractor drive through wide fields surrounded by cows and hills.
Your reward will be grand views of the rolling hills. Located near a high point at the north end of the ranch,
Large metal open barn.
the show barn is the center of the LBJ ranching operation.
3 people wearing cowboy hats lean on a fence. Longhorn and cattle push past each other in paddocks.
LBJ National Historical Park is proud to be one of a handful of parks in the National Park Service to contain a working ranch. Ranch hands care for and manage Hereford cattle that descend from the original stock bought by then Senator Johnson in the 1950s.
Photos of Lyndon B. Johnson standing around cattle.
An eager host, the president often enjoyed showing off the cattle to his guests.
Cattle follow truck with grain sacks on board.
Today, the ranching tradition continues, including feeding and herding the cattle.
People herd cattle with long poles.
As well as happily answering questions from members of the public like you.
Person in cowboy hat speaks to people with their backs to camera. Car drives down road towards a building.
Down the hill and back towards the river, you'll find yourself at the LBJ Ranch hangar.
Car drives past sign reading Texas White House, Airplane Hangar, Visitor Center, Vehicle Exhibits, Lyndon B. Johnson National Historical Park.
This building once housed Lyndon Johnson's private planes and later served as the site for community events and press conferences.
Photos of Lyndon B. Johnson speaking to people at long tables and in single chairs. Audio-visual exhibits containing information.
Today, the hangar serves as the main visitor center at the Ranch District and houses a variety of exhibits that explore President Johnson's legacy.
Visitor interacts with touchscreen exhibit. Large open building containing informational displays and personal effects of Lyndon B. Johnson. Busts modeled in his image and colorful box toys move across screen.
See mementos of the time period in the Johnson administration that stoke a sense of nostalgia for the 1960s.
Large airplane with blue stripes sits parked under shade surrounded by people.
Parked outside the hangar is a Lockheed Jetstar, one of 5 used during the presidency.
Text on plane reads United States of America.
Get up close and take a look inside to see how the president traveled in the 1960s.
Black and white photo of Lyndon B. Johnson and others on airplane.
A classic showman, President Johnson enjoyed caravanning guests around the ranch in his variety of vehicles.
Image of Lyndon B. Johnson talking to guests from parked electric car beside Lady Bird Johnson.
Standing tall on the banks of the Pedernales River sits the centerpiece of the ranch, the family home of Lyndon and Lady Bird Johnson.
Large 2-story 20th century white house.
Bought by the Johnsons in 1951, the home stayed in the family until the passing of Lady Bird Johnson in 2007.
Photo of Lyndon B. Johnson and family posing for portrait in living room.
Overall, 1/4 of President Johnson's time in office was spent here, so much so it was dubbed the Texas White House.
Period photos of Lyndon B. Johnson and others talking, laughing, giving speeches, and seeing entertainment inside building and on land by a river.
On the lawn, crucial cabinet meetings took place to discuss issues such as the Vietnam War, civil rights, and the war on poverty. Foreign dignitaries enjoyed Texas hospitality, barbecue, and entertainment under the live oak trees. In this place that President Johnson was so closely connected to from birth, he also found personal respite from the tumultuous events of the 1960s. So important was this place to them that Miss Johnson came to call it our heart's home.
Photo of Lyndon B. Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson holding hands and walking through a field of wildflowers. Sunset reflects off water through trees and over horizon before fading into shot of windmill, which fades to black.
Here in the hill country of Texas, a young boy was shaped by the people and places that surrounded him. As you explore the park and reflect upon Lyndon and Lady Bird Johnson's life and legacy, we leave you with these questions. What will be your legacy? How will you shape the future of tomorrow for those to come?
A tree-framed house appears with text, narration by Cheyenne Ford. A tree-framed log cabin with text, filming and editing by Douglas Smith. Dense forest with fallen logs and text, music by Kevin MacLeod, Alexander Nakarada, Audionautics. Texas Parks and Wildlife and National Park Service logos appear and disappear.